Stop. Stop. May puriyo.
From the last 10 years, India does not have an accurate data on the total number of child laborers. The last data was compiled in the census of 2011, where it was estimated that around 10 million children from the age group of 5 to 14 were engaged in worse forms of child labor. The same year, the Assam data showed that over 350,000 children were engaged in various forms of economic work. But as of today, we don't have any numbers on the total child laborers engaged across various vocations. A little data of Guwahati city shows that from 2019 to 2021, Childline Guwahati rescued over 300 children from various forms of child labor or child slavery. Child employees are often victims of malnutrition. If you look around, you will find out that children who are employed as child laborers are basically having very less food to eat. They are mostly having leftovers, and thereby children, especially the children in domestic child labor situations, we have seen that children are severely malnourished. Child laborers often face various forms of physical violence like pouring of hot water, regular beating, forceful cutting of hair. They also face various forms of emotional abuse like locking them up in rooms, constant verbal abuse from employers. Many children also face various forms of sexual violence. Actually, child laborers are a preferred choice for any employer who wants to save money because children don't have bargaining powers, or any employer who wants to extract overtime work employs children because children do not understand their labor rights, or any employer who wishes to abuse and exploit children often employ child laborers because children do not know about their protection rights. Predators often look out for children in vulnerable situations to abuse and exploit in the lucrative human trafficking trade. Children do have a right to earn livelihood, but to protect younger children from the abuses and exploitations associated with child labor, the state has various policies to provide rehabilitative support to such vulnerable children. The Juvenile Justice Act considers children who are working as child laborers to be vulnerable or at risk and are therefore considered as children in need of care and protection, and puts the onus on the state to provide rehabilitative support to children who are victims of child labor. Children who are employed as child labor miss out on the most fundamental right, that is education. Children who are working cannot go to school, and when they cannot go to school, they lose out on learning the valuable life lessons, gaining the correct skills, or having the knowledge that can help them secure a stable future. So, a poverty coupled with more hungry mouths to feed actually pushes children or pushes families to engage their children into various kinds of economic activities. Second reason would be gender prejudices. Gender prejudices often leave girl children out of school, compelling them to join the economic workforce as child laborers. Most people are reluctant to report child labor in their adjacent households due to social repercussions or due to threat that may come to their family and loved ones. In the last so many years, UTSAH has taken several initiatives to address the problem of child labor in Assam. In the initial years, we were actively working on rescue missions in collaboration with the police and organizations like Childline Services. We have also taken various advocacy campaigns or awareness campaigns where we have promoted the Childline Rescue Service number, that is 1098, and various other issues concerning the child labor problem, where various ambassadors from chief ministers, governors, senior bureaucrats, police officers, artists, musicians, famous personalities have partaken to come together to stop child labor in Assam. Children who run away from their homes due to reasons associated with domestic violence or harsh parenting methods often end up on street situation. Most often, street children engage themselves into various forms of informal economic activities. Children whose parents have chronic illness have to engage themselves or have to work to earn in their family, to head the household, to look after their parents.
For the purposes of child labor rescues or intervene child labor cases, there are a committee, it's called District Child Labor Task Force Committee in every district, where the other departments are also involved, like the labor department, police, health, district administration, some civil society organizers, who are the members of that committee. So in a child-friendly manner, whenever we go to intervene in child labor cases, we can take support from that committee.
Okay, so talking about the psychological or mental health repercussions of child labor or adolescent child labor on young individuals, there could be plenty. When you look at child labor and the impact of mental health, it could be two ways. One is the immediate effect, which is the ongoing effect that a child is going through while being employed as child labor, and the other one is the prolonged effects, mental health effects on a child as a result of being employed as a child or adolescent labor. Now, for example, if we look at a child who is employed as a worker or as a server in a dhaba or a restaurant, serving somebody much older to them with delicious meals and sumptuous meals for the day, while himself eating only 2 square meals, dry food, stale food, can you imagine the mental health impact that it can have? So, psychological impact is not visible. It is something that is hidden and it is very catalytic. One cannot understand the impact that psychology has on a child, especially when they are employed as a child labor. Depression, anxiety, trouble sleeping, insomnia, hunger problems, even things like substance abuse and use for children who are employed in very hazardous and very troublesome working backgrounds. For children who are stripped off from their family rights, who are taken away or trafficked, they are spending their time lonely, away from their family, while helping people who are living with family units. So the contrast that a child goes through mentally is far more dangerous than just the physical aspects of child labor that we see. It's visible. But for a child to comprehend at that particular age what is happening to them psychologically is very difficult. Hence, it goes on to something called a prolonged or stretched mental health impact.
The primary law which deals with child and adolescent labor in the country is the Child and Adolescent Labor Prohibition and Regulation Act of 1986. This Act of 1986 was recently amended in 2016, and the Act was made more stronger and stringent, and this present Act deals with various facets of child and adolescent labor. This Act has made child and adolescent labor a cognizable offence. The Child and Adolescent Labor Prohibition and Regulation Act of 1986 defines a child and defines an adolescent. A child is defined as a person who has not completed the age of 14 years, and an adolescent is defined as a person who is in the age group of 15 to 18 years. This act completely bans any form of child labor, whether it's a hazardous occupation or a non-hazardous occupation. Any employer who engages a child in any form of labor, that child will be considered to be a victim of child labor, and the employer will be penalized as per provisions of the law. Coming to adolescents, this act allows adolescents to work in a non-hazardous sector. However, if an adolescent is engaged in any hazardous sector, it will be considered to be a adolescent labor, and the employer of such a sector will be penalized as per provisions of the law. Coming to penal provisions for engaging a child and an adolescent labor, this act specifies that any employer who engages a child and adolescent in labor will be penalized with an imprisonment term of minimum of 6 months, which can be extended to 2 years, and the minimum fine imposed will be 20,000, which can be extended to 50,000, or fine and both imprisonment can be awarded. This act also has provisions wherein parents and guardians can be penalized if they willfully, voluntarily or forcefully engages their children in any form of labor which is in contravention of the law.
During child labor, children are often stressed with workload, control of employers, and lose out on the necessary play time and leisure time, which is so essential for a healthy childhood. What conscious citizens like you and I should do is that whenever we see any child labor in our communities, we should not be scared or hesitate to call up 1098 Childline Services and get such children rescued. You can also reach out to the child welfare police officer of your nearest police station who will always help children from abusive and exploitative child labor situations.